Are you tired of getting nauseous during high intensity training or during your races? This is a common problem, but there's an easy fix. Let's take a look at it. Hi, I'm Coach Robb, and at the time of this recording, I've been a human performance coach going on 40 years. And recently I received an email from one of our listeners to our Coach Robb podcast asking, why do I get nauseous during high intensity training and why do I always get nauseous during racing? When you are looking at the human body, I want you to partition it off for the sake of this video into two categories. We refer to it as the hierarchy of needs. When you're out exercising, your body's only desire is to not die of a heat stroke. That's why we have what's called the exothermic process. The body wicks away heat through and to the skin. You have sweat that gets at the skin and it becomes a radiator effect. It wicks away the heat. The other side of the equation is you've got to fuel your effort. If you're doing something over an hour long, you don't have enough storages to efficiently go beyond an hour. So therefore, we have to start looking at that finite line between not dying of a heat stroke and fueling the effort that you're doing. The longer the interval training, the longer the race, the more difficult and complicated this becomes. But I want to just encourage you, it's not as complicated as it sounds. When you're doing a high intensity interval workout or you're racing at a high intensity, you've got to recognize that at that point, the body is going to make an executive decision to shut down digestion. That's why we call it the hierarchy of needs. So for example, if you don't understand this concept and you disregard it and you've got your heart rate elevated and you choke down a bunch of calories, you are definitely going to see those calories again. It's going to either go up and out through your mouth, or unfortunately you may end up soiling your shorts. All joking aside, the body is not going to allow you to argue with what it's most concerned about. So that's why we always say, let's not argue with the principles of physiology. The same way that if I were to drop my pen, we wouldn't argue with the principle of gravity is going to pull the pen to the ground. There's a mathematical calculation that goes with it, and the pen's going to hit the ground. Well, same thing applies here. When your body is trying to get rid of heat because you're putting it under the demand of athletic performance, you've got to remember that the body still has its own desires, and it will always start with not dying of a heat stroke. It also doesn't want to freeze to death, but for the sake of this video, we're going to talk about overheating versus digesting food. So this comes back to the magical question, why am I getting nauseous? If you have a piece of paper, what I want you to do is I want you to draw an arrow up and then right next to it, draw an arrow down. And I want you to label the first arrow intensity and the second arrow, I want you to label food complexity. And most importantly, those arrows are interchangeable. So what we're saying is when you bring the heart rate up, you have to bring the complexity of food down. If you're going to be bringing the intensity down, you can bring the food complexity up a little bit. Most of you guys know I own my own sports drink company. The sports drink is called Energy Fuel. We have 3 different formulations of energy fuel because we recognize that the carbohydrate molecule needs to match the intensity and the duration. Not a surprise that as we've done the research on this, we change the molecule literally based on the parameter of time. Up to 1 hour, we use Energy Fuel Boost. 1 to 3 hours, we use Energy Fuel. And 3 hours and above, we use Energy Fuel Plus. Now, why would I take the time to share that with you? Because notice I gave you a duration of time. Now look at your piece of paper. If you're going to be doing something for less than an hour, we know that your intensity is going to be relatively high. So we make the molecule a little bit easier to break down than something that you're going to be doing for 3 hours where the heart rate's not going to be quite as high as it would be for something that you're doing for 60 minutes or less. This is where the Garmin heart rate monitor helps us quite a bit in regards to creating a customized hydration program and nutrition program during training and racing. We do it obviously when, everyday nutrition, but when it comes time to actually fueling your effort, there's a whole finite balance of how much are you sweating, what's your calorie burn rate, what's the air temperature, like if you're running, it's a lot more jarring than if you're, on a bicycle. I know that sounds obvious, but some people make that mistake and they try to eat things that they can do on the bike. When they do it on the run, that jarring really messes them up. So when we zoom out to 10,000 feet and we look at this whole frustration that came in from the email, Rob, why am I getting nauseous when I'm doing high intensity intervals and or racing? It's because the food complexity is too high. I'm proud to say that our energy fuel is designed that you don't need bars, gels, you don't have to take salt tablets, you don't have to take electrolytes. The idea is literally in one bottle you get everything that you need. Now that's not a sales pitch on energy fuel. I just want you to be confident in the science that we've put into it. I don't want you to be looking like a pack mule having to carry salt tabs and electrolyte tablets and all this other stuff. No, we have it so that when you mix the drink, it's there for you. And our goal is that as we work on this finite balance of what's my intensity, what's the food complexity, another element that has to be taken into consideration is the number of calories. You don't want to try, you want to do everything you can to keep the calorie intake around 300 to 315 calories, depending on your body size. There is some new research where people are trying to push that number, and it hasn't been very good. There's always a few exceptions where people can get away with it, but ironically, one of the things that people don't take into context is when someone says that they're taking in 350, 400 calories per se, I'm always interested to find out what the average heart rate is, because when we go back to the principles of physiology, when the body's being asked to digest a lot of calories, the heart rate has got to come down. Otherwise, it's going to purge itself of those calories. I hope this video has really helped clarify why are you getting nauseous when you're trying to eat and perform at a high intensity. Now what we want to do is find the right balance between what can you consume. That's why we do everything by trial and error. I would encourage you to give the energy fuel please give the energy fuel a chance, You will have a link in the description box to that if you want to give it a try. Now, with that being said, I want to close with this idea that if I've put anything in this video that may stir up more questions than we've provided answers, I want you to reach out. You guys have been doing a tremendous job, and the number of emails continues to go up each and every week since we started doing this, and I'm forever thankful. I love doing this. I want to answer your questions. Please send me an email if you have a question. contact@coachrob.com. I want to thank you for giving me time today here watching this video, but if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't turned on the notifications, if you haven't liked it, I would deeply appreciate that for the time we put in. But we do put out a video every day here on YouTube answering your questions. Thank you for your time today. I hope this makes a lot of sense, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.